All right, so check this out. The military parade that Donald Trump is having for his birthday in Washington, D.C., where tanks will be rolling down the streets, troops will be marching, there will be helicopters in the sky. Yeah, that event he's really excited about, his big dictatorial moment, is on the verge of backfiring in the funniest way possible, and it's angry Americans who are going to do it. So I want to break down this story for you really quickly. But first and foremost, I want to give you some context on just how disastrous this protest is setting up to be, not only for the American people, but also Donald Trump himself. So yesterday in the Oval Office, during a press conference, he warned that protesters of his military parade will face very heavy force. And he didn't just specify Washington, D.C., he just basically said anywhere in the country, which is interesting because on the same day, the No Kings protest is scheduled across the United States. Millions of Americans coming out, making their voices heard against the Trump administration. And it doesn't seem like Donald Trump wants that very much. During this press conference in the Oval Office, he told reporters that they're going to be celebrating big on Saturday, referring to the parade that will wind its way through downtown Washington, D.C. He also went on and added, quote, "If there's any protester that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. I haven't even heard about a protest, but this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force." And the White House didn't respond to comment, and they didn't answer follow-up questions on, like, what does that force look like? What does Donald Trump mean when he says that? Because I don't even think his staff understands what he means when he says that. But this is also incredibly dictatorial, saying, hey, if you use your First Amendment right against me, the president of the United States, somebody that you disagree with, I will put your protest down. And he's saying that about a military protest, the same kind of protest that we see in dictatorships like North Korea. It's just very, very strange. But also, I want to show you other clips that you might have seen recently, which talks about like the breadth of this protest. Look at all of these tanks being driven into Washington, D.C. on a train recently. Just have a look. I mean, is that not just like incredibly scary? I understand it's just tanks coming into Washington, D.C., but I think it represents something far bigger. I think it represents Donald Trump's dictatorial tendencies. We've never seen footage like this in the United States, and truly with the Washington Monument in the background, it kind of looks like a movie. It kind of looks like a movie about the United States being taken over by a dictator, and now all these tanks are rolling into Washington, D.C. And I know Republicans are saying, oh, it's just a birthday celebration. I think it's more than that. Here's another clip of it.
That's a self-propelled gun. That's what that is.
DC, baby!
Don't call that.
I mean, I just cannot believe that these are the streets of our nation's capital. And you can even hear people in this video and see people kind of like stunned at what they're seeing in the streets of Washington, D.C. And finally, I want to show you some reporting from my good friend, Aaron Parnas, who is actually on the mall, the Washington Mall, just moments ago. And he's seeing all these different military vehicles, helicopters, military vehicles, tanks, and things like that. Just take a look at his reporting.
Right now, I'm here on site where the United States military is currently preparing for Donald Trump's parade on Saturday, on his birthday, on the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. And there are tanks, helicopters, and a number of military equipment just out in the open right now. This isn't a war zone. This is Washington, D.C. Let me show you what things look like right now. As you can see right behind me, we have a military vehicle over here. We also have United States Army helicopters like this one right over here, literally placed in the middle of the National Mall right now. This is where the stage for the Army celebration.
I just think that, once again, I want to reiterate the point that I think that's incredibly scary. And this is not something I ever thought we'd see happening in our nation's capital. And one of the final points I want to make here is just how expensive this rally is set up to be, this parade is set up to be. It's going to cost a lot of money. As the Army tanks roll in, according to a local Washington, D.C. news outlet, flies planes and marches soldiers into Washington, it's our money that's paying for almost all of it. According to the Army, the parade and festivities the weekend of June 14th will cost taxpayers up to $45 million. Donald Trump told Meet the Press last month that the cost is peanuts compared to the value of doing it. I'm just interested as to where DOGE has gone. They said that DOGE was going to cut all this unnecessary funding. And yet Donald Trump is saying, oh, $45 million, it is what it is. And the money is going to pay for a number of things, such as soldiers' meals and expenses. But one of the most unnecessary things is road repairs. The roads in Washington, D.C. are not suited for tanks to be driving on them. And it's going to cost around $16 million to fix those roads. It's a disaster. So now that brings us to this, which is not only are the optics of this protest backfiring on Donald Trump, not only is his own rhetoric backfiring on him, such as when he says, yeah, if you protest against me, you're going to face a lot of force, but these No King protests, which are taking place across the United States on the same day as Donald Trump's military parade, are drawing some unfortunate looks for Donald Trump. He's getting the parade he wanted, but he'll also be getting mass protests exposing the nation's partisan divisions. The tanks and artillery launchers rolling through Washington, D.C. on Saturday will honor the Army's 250th anniversary, which falls on the day that Donald Trump turned 79, and about 7,000 soldiers will march. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to line up the Constitution Avenue and on the co-birthday and cheer. Trump is set to watch the spectacle from a viewing stand south of the White House. But in Washington and in all 50 states, organizers will be staging protests that could dwarf the parade in size. A coalition of pro-democracy, labor, and liberal activists is arranging a full day of counter-programming to make the case that Trump is hijacking the Army celebration to venerate himself, which is true. I think we can all see that. I mean, he's putting his face up around Washington, D.C. and making it all about him, not about the Army, as a wannabe dictator does. Quote, the goal here is to deprive Donald Trump of what he wants in this moment, which is a story about him being the all-powerful political figure of our time, and instead create a contrast with normal, everyday people, demonstrating that power in the country still resides with the people, said Ezra Levine, a co-founder of the progressive group Indivisible, who's helping organize these protests. If past protests are a guide, the participants could number in the millions, he said. A total of 1,800 rallies are expected, with events in each congressional district. Each congressional district. That's a major, major win. Another group called Women's March is also arranging protests to coincide with the parade, with a theme of Kick Out the Clowns. Organizers expect up to 5,000 people to participate in Madison, Wisconsin alone, which is amazing. Nothing feels more absurd than the idea of this president having a massive military parade on his birthday, she said. It feels surreal for so many of us. So these protests are expected to draw in millions of Americans who are frustrated with Donald Trump, who are angry with what his administration is doing. And it's been perfectly timed for the same day that Donald Trump is having his major birthday celebration, his major military parade that is already on the verge of collapse. It's also, I just want to point out as one more point, it's also meant to rain on Saturday in Washington, D.C. And I actually put out a tweet hoping that it rains because, man, what an amazing addition to the day would it be if it rains for Donald Trump, but everywhere else in the United States is sunny while people are protesting him. But I just view this event that Donald Trump is planning to have as a possible disaster, likely to be a disaster, because Donald Trump can have his event in D.C., but in every major town around the United States, and even in local towns around the United States, people will be making their voices heard, protesting against Trump, protesting against this administration, and I hope you're doing it too. I'm going to try to be out there. I'm looking at either New York or Chicago. I'm going to be there. Hope you are too, and I hope to see some of you there. So I will leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Drop a like on the video, comment. Let me know what you think about this story. Let me know if you're going to a protest as well. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.